find the equation for the parabola that has this focus point and this directrix line. So, and there's the answer already. How'd they come up with that equation? Well, to begin with, we have to remember these four directions of a parabola. So the direction of a parabola is always determined by the first power letter. So so the first power letter, that's in this case that's the y, right? Y is to the first power, and notice this goes up in the positive y direction. On this one, the first power letter is negative y. Notice this parabola goes in the negative y direction. This over here, x is to the first power. This parabola goes to the first power, positive x to the first. This is negative x to the first, so this parabola goes in the negative x direction. Okay, so the first power letter determines the direction of the parabola. And then, beyond that, focus points, see these four focus points? These are located inside the parabola. And behind it, these are directrix lines. So the directrix lines, those dotted lines called the directrix, that's what it's referring to here. The directrix line is always behind the parabola, like this one's behind, and the focus point is inside. This one's behind, the focus is inside. This one's behind, the focus is inside. This one's behind, the focus is inside. The center is in the middle of the focus point and the directrix lines. That's an important fact to know. So make sure you have all of this information on your notes for the next exam. Very important. So let's do it. Let's start up here. Let's figure out what these values are. I'm going to just use my calculator. 61 divided by 4, I think that's 15.25. And the directrix line is x equals, divide that in your calculator, isn't that 5.25? Yeah. Okay, so let's just get decimals. Decimals are just easier to work with, and I'll change them later if we need to. I don't think we'll need to. So let's find those points. So let's start with the focus point. So it's back 15, down 8. So back 15, a little more than 15. So back 1, 2, so I'm just going to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then just a little bit more than 15. So it's right about there. Oh, but it's down 8. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About right there. So there's the focus point. Back 15.25. So this line right here would be back 15. This line here is down 8. Back 15.25, down 8. Oops. Kind of messed that up a little bit. There is the focus point. And then where's the directrix line? That's over at x's. This is the x-axis. That means it hits the x-axis. That line, that dotted line, is going to go through the x-axis over at 5.25. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a little slight bit more. So there we go. So there's the line x equals 5.25. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just a little beyond 5. 5.25. Okay. So the center now. So now we need to find the center of this vertex, the center of this parabola, which is called the vertex. So the center is always located right in the middle. That's what this is saying. The center, or the vertex, either one, same thing, is in the middle of the focus point and the directrix line. So I've got to find the middle of this point right here, which is 5.25, right? And this point right here, which is negative 15.25. I know it's down 8. I know that it's going to be on this line somewhere. I know the center is probably around in here. I know the center of the parabola, called the vertex, is going to be somewhere on that line because it's got to be lined up with the focus. And it's going to be going this way. Does that make sense? Why? Because this directrix line has to be behind it, and this focus point has to be inside of it. Remember, the directrix line is always behind the parabola, and the focus point is always inside, and the center here of the parabola is always right in the middle of the focus point and this directrix line. It's got to be right in the middle between those two. And the focus has to be inside, the directrix at the back. So it has to go that way. All right, so let's find it out. How do you find the middle then? How do you find the middle of negative 15.25 and positive 5.25? How do you find the middle of two numbers? If you got an 80 and a 90 on two exams, how do you find the middle? You average them, don't you? So I'm going to take those two numbers, I'm going to add them, whoops, and divide by 2. That'll give me the middle of those two numbers. So use your calculator. I think that's going to come out negative 5, isn't it? If I'm thinking right. Yeah. So negative 5. So that means the center is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back 5, and we know it's right here because it's got to be lined up with the focus. So there's the center, back 5, down 8, and the parabola must be going this way and this way. Because, again, back here we have the directrix line behind it and the focus point inside of it. That's how parabolas always work, right? You look at all these parabolas up here. The directrix line is behind them, the focus is inside of them. Directrix behind them, focus inside of them. And the center of the parabola is right in the middle of the focus point and the directrix line. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get the equation of this thing. So how do we get the equation of that parabola? So it's this one's going to the left. That means it's y squared is negative 4ax. So it's y squared is negative 4x. But the center, right here, this center, vertex, we got to put that in. Remember, it's opposite of what's next to x and opposite of what's next to y when we do that. So it's going to be y, what? Plus 8 squared minus 4x plus 5, right? The opposite of the 5 is the negative 5. The opposite of the plus 8 is the negative 8. Okay, now last thing is we got to find the a. We're almost there. How do you find the a? A is how far from the center to the focus. How far from the center to the focus? So how far from, in fact, let me move this negative 5, negative 8 over here. How far is that? That's A. A is that distance. Well, that goes, the focus point is at negative 15.25, and this is at negative 5. So how far is A? What is A going to be? How do you find the distance between two things? You subtract them, right? So A will be negative 15.25 minus negative 5, which is actually going to become adding because of the double negative. So A is negative 10.25. So, all right, so there's A. We've already got the negative right there in the formula, so we don't really have to rewrite that. So y plus 8 squared is negative 4. The A is 10.25. X plus 5. Multiply that on your calculator, you'll get minus 41. Let's make sure we got the answer right there. So we got y plus 8 squared, negative 41x plus 5. Yep, we got the right answer. So there we go on that one.